Welcome back, everyone. In today's game, I'm going to cover game 25 of a First Book of Morphy. We're going to see Paul Morphy with the white pieces sacrifice a pawn to prevent the opponent from castling. This is one of the rules of the book. Don't sacrifice without a clear and adequate reason. In this case, another situation would be to prevent your opponent from castling. And we do have the Evans Gambit. So let's go ahead and go over the game. Right, so black here has control over d4 with the bishop on c5, the knight on c6, and the pawn on e5. So the point of the Evans Gambit before is to distract the bishop, and then c3 comes with a threat to the bishop. Bishop goes to c5, and here white castles, right? And here what white wanted to avoid was the check with the dark square bishop. So if white goes d4 right away without castling, then black has this knight to b4, bishop to b4 check, and then here if you block with the bishop, then black could just trade bishops, and then now in the future you cannot play bishop to a3 to prevent your opponent from castling, right? If you block with the knight, then your knight will be on d2, and there's going to be a pin. Or after you castle, the pin is gone, but the bishop remains on b4. Right, so this is after move 9. So let's go ahead and continue what happened in the game. White castled first, d6, d4. And then black captures. Right here, if black doesn't capture, if black moves the bishop, then we have this continuation. Either if you capture with the king, you lose your castling rights, or if you take with the knight, then you lose a pawn. Right? If you castle with the king, then you can't. If you take with the king, you can't castle anymore. If you take with the knight, then you lose a pawn on e5. So that's why black captures on d4. And again, black gives up the center with this move. But it's better than losing a pawn or losing your ability to castle. Okay, b6, and then we have knight c3. Now let's go ahead and compare with the other variation where white decided to play d4 right away, and we had this bishop on b4 check. Right, so this is both at the beginning of move 9. Which position is better? I believe this one looks more comfortable for white. Right, you have the knight on c3 and the bishop is blocked, compared to this one where the bishop is attacking the knight and the bishop is in a better position. Again, it might be defended with a5, etc. So here the book mentions that the best move would be to attack the bishop, get it off this diagonal. So attack it and make the bishop retreat. If bishop to b3, then you take the bishop, right, and castles, and you get rid of this bishop, or the bishop could go back to here. That would be the best move. So again, f6 is a mistake. And this is a natural developing move, but it is a mistake. White isn't able to open the e file for his rook and the a3 f8 diagonal for the bishop. So here again, white is incentivized to push, takes, right? Open the e file. If queen trades, then we have the rook on the open file. And then now, since the pawn took, let's go ahead and play some type of variation here. We have the rook on the open file, and then we're going to put our bishop here on a3, preventing our opponent from castling. So knight f6. Let's go ahead and continue. White pushes with e5. And here black captures. Here it just says that it's worse for black if black plays d5 with a counterattack. Then we have this variation. And this overall is worse for black. Now here in this position, if there was no rook on h8, then the black king would be safe, right? It wouldn't capture the pawn. It would use the white pawn as a shield. But since the white pawn is starting to capture the rook, that's why the king has to capture. Now the king is exposed. So d captures on e5, bishop a3, preventing the king from castling kingside. So then black goes bishop g4, getting ready to castle queenside. And here we have queen b3, making a threat to capture on f7. We have bishop h5 defending f7. Now d captures on e5. Okay, knight to g4, rook a to d1, queen c8. Now here it also mentions that if knight to d4 with a self pin, then we go into this variation, which is not good for black. Bishop takes, rook takes, and now if queen takes, then you lose the queen with this tactic here. So white goes queen c8, e6, threatening to take on f7 with a checkmate. So the pawn captures on f7, bishop captures on f7, and then now we have the bishop taking here on f7 with checkmate. So black plays f6. If black captures the pawn, then we go into this variation, which is again also good for white. So black plays f6. Queen b5 attacking the bishop on h5. Bishop goes to bishop g6. And then we have bishop to d5 threatening to take the knight. If pawn captures, then queen captures with checkmate. Right, all these squares are covered by the rook, this one by the bishop, this square on f7 by the pawn, so this would be checkmate. So here's where black resigned. Now let's go ahead and recap with the computer analysis. And again, the computer does agree that knight f6 was a mistake. So pretty much there's just a lot of inaccuracies. I'm not going to go to the point where the mistake was made, and it was this move. And here the computer is saying that knight f5 was the best move, attacking the bishop. Now let's turn off the computer analysis and just kind of quickly look over about the Evans Gambit. Now, I believe modern theory says that bishop back to e7 is the best move. I mean, let's go ahead and turn on the engine here. Okay, engine recommends bishop to a5. Okay, so now I know that bishop to e7 is also a different move. So let's find a different move for black in this position. Right. We now know the best move is a5. Again, that could be an option. a5, bishop g4, or if you still want to play, if you're still focused on castling kingside, maybe knight to e7. Right, so let's play simulate knight to e7. Now, what are you going to get? This pin here. Now you can kick the bishop out. And again, this would prevent you from casting. So maybe you would play the other pawn out to kick the bishop out. We have this move. Then you castle. And now you probably put your rook here on e7 or get your queen out of the pin first. And then now you can eventually move your knight to g5. So again, let me know what you thought of this game, of this video. Any comments, suggestions, feedback, general thoughts. And I will see you all in the next video. Thank you for watching.